July 2022, Canterbury, England. A forest that had been silent for 6,000 years suddenly heard something it hadn't heard since the Stone Age. Heavy hooves hitting ancient soil, a massive head lowering, and then the sound of bark being torn from a living tree like skin being peeled from bone. No chainsaw, no machinery, no conservation team in high-vis jackets, just one animal doing exactly what it was born to do. And within weeks, that dying woodland started doing something nobody expected. It started breathing again. Here's what they don't tell you on the nature documentaries. Walk into almost any ancient British woodland today, the kind with tall canopies, thick moss, golden shafts of light filtering through the leaves, and it looks healthy. It looks ancient. It looks protected. But that's a lie the canopy tells you. Underneath, these forests are hollowed out, like a beautiful old house with rotting foundations, beautiful from the outside, structurally collapsing from within. Decades of commercial logging, decades of corporate timber production, then decades of neglect. The canopy sealed itself shut like a fist closing around everything beneath it. No light reached the floor. The wildflowers died. The shrubs disappeared. The layered, living understory that once buzzed and crawled and grew in every direction just vanished. And without those plants, the specialist insects gone. Without the insects, the birds followed. The bats followed. What remained was a green shell, impressive from a drone shot, ecologically hollow at its core. West Blean and Thornden Woods sits just outside Canterbury in Kent, England, 560 hectares. Part of the largest continuous block of ancient woodland in the entire south of England. The Kent Wildlife Trust had been managing it for years, cutting, clearing, coppicing, with limited results. Before the trust even acquired it, half the woodland had been commercially planted with non-native conifers for timber. The other half was dense, overgrown and stagnant. But here's what's haunting about this story. When researchers ran baseline surveys before the project launched, they found something extraordinary hiding under all that neglect. 178 species of spider, including one critically rare species that hadn't been recorded anywhere in Britain since 2004. A rare fungus beetle not seen in the UK since 1988. Nightingales, lesser spotted woodpeckers, the diversity was still there, clinging on in fragments, waiting. But the physical architecture needed to sustain it, falling apart year by year. The human tools were failing. Cut a section open, light floods in. Ground flora returns. Beautiful. But stop the work for even a few years, the canopy seals shut again, and no conservation budget on Earth can sustain that cycle across hundreds of hectares forever. The woodland didn't need more management. It needed something that couldn't clock out. Now, before we talk about what happened in that Kent forest, you need to understand just how close the European bison came to being erased from this planet entirely. Because this isn't just a conservation story. This is a resurrection story. The European bison, Bison benasus, is the largest land animal native to the European continent. Adult males reach close to 900 kilograms, built for forest, not open plains, completely different from the American bison most people picture. These animals have a lower, leaner build, a slightly shorter frame, shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of living inside dense European woodland, stripping bark, pushing over trees, churning soil, browsing low shrubs. They are the forest. Or rather, the forest became what it is because of them, and then humans took them away. Hunting, habitat destruction. Century after century, the bison were pushed back, eliminated from one country, then another, until by the early 20th century, the last wild population in all of Europe was hanging on in one place, the Białowieża forest of Poland. Then World War I happened. Between 1914 and 1919, occupying German soldiers slaughtered over 600 bison in Białowieża for sport, for meat, for no reason beyond the fact that they could. By 1919, the last wild bison in Poland was dead, And in 1927, in the Caucasus Mountains of Russia, a poacher's bullet killed the last wild European bison on Earth. The species was extinct in the wild. Every forest on the continent that had evolved alongside these animals for millennia, suddenly, permanently, without them. Like removing a keystone from an arch and watching everything slowly crumble. But here's where the story turns. Because somewhere in the zoos of Europe, 54 individuals had survived, and every single one of those 54 animals could be traced back to just 12 founding individuals. 12. That's the genetic bottleneck through which an entire species had to crawl to survive. 12 animals between a species and oblivion. What followed was arguably the most meticulous wildlife recovery program in recorded history. The European Bison Pedigree Book, first published in 1932, documented every single living individual, every bloodline, every birth and death, every year, without interruption, up to the present day. In 1952, 25 years after the last wild bison was shot, the first captive bred animals were released back into Białowieża forest. Slowly, carefully, the population grew. Reintroduction programs spread to Romania, Germany, the Netherlands, from 12 zoo animals in 1927 to approximately 7,000 free-roaming bison across Europe today. A century of work, pulling a species back from the void. And in July 2022, that century-long recovery arc reached an English woodland near Canterbury. Tell a friend about this channel. The stories we cover, you won't find them anywhere else. The Wilder Blean Project, a partnership between the Kent Wildlife Trust and the Wildwood Trust, had a simple, almost radical idea: stop trying to manage the woodland, and instead introduce an animal that had already evolved to manage it. July 2022, 3 females arrived first: the matriarch, an 18-year-old female from a conservation facility in Scotland, 2 younger females from Ireland. They stepped into that woodland, and within hours, something primal switched on inside them. The matriarch found a thicket of rhododendron, invasive, choking, the kind of plant that human teams had spent years trying to control. She lowered her head and ripped it out. Then she turned to a willow tree and tore long vertical strips of bark away in deep, precise gouges, exposing the pale wood beneath like something surgical. The younger females, without instruction, without hesitation, dropped to the ground and began rolling, churning the soil, their powerful shoulders and hooves turning the compacted earth into shallow depressions, bare earth that hadn't seen daylight in decades. Nobody told them to do any of this. The bull arrived in December 2022, delayed by months of post-Brexit animal import paperwork, his journey from Germany to England wrapped in bureaucracy. His bloodline traces directly back to those original 12 founding animals, the last genetic thread connecting the herd at West Blean to the edge of extinction itself. And then, within weeks, the forest began to change. What makes the European bison unique isn't just its size. It's the combination of 4 specific behaviours, all running simultaneously, each producing a completely different ecological outcome. Think of it like 4 conservation teams working around the clock, except they never sleep, never take a budget cut, never need a 5-year management review. First, bark stripping. Bison strip bark from living trees in long vertical gouges, eventually ring barking individual trees and killing them. Now, a dead standing tree, called a snag, is one of the most ecologically valuable structures a woodland can contain. Over 2,000 species of beetle, bird, bat, and fungus depend on dead wood at various stages of decay. These snags take decades to develop naturally. A bison produces one in a single season. Second, tree knockdown. Bison use their body weight, close to a ton, to push over trees entirely, creating fallen dead wood on the forest floor, opening gaps in the canopy above. Light hits the ground. Ground flora establishes itself within a single growing season. Third, wallowing. Bison dig shallow depressions by rolling and churning with their bodies, creating bare earth patches across the woodland floor. Bare earth in an overgrown woodland is critical habitat for specialist insects and rare plants that simply cannot establish themselves on covered ground. Each wallow is its own small ecological hotspot. Fourth, selective grazing. Bison favour certain plants over others, creating a mosaic of different vegetation types instead of the uniform ground cover that develops under a closed canopy. That mosaic at ground level supports diversity across every layer above it. No conservation methodology ever designed by humans replicates all four simultaneously, at scale, indefinitely. It has to be lived into existence. The results at West Blean arrived faster than anyone predicted. Within weeks, corridors were opening through woodland so dense that light hadn't reached the floor in decades. Rangers started finding something strange in the bison dung beetle larvae, appearing so quickly that one ranger reportedly asked, "How did the beetles get the memo?" Fungi colonized the dung within days. Plants not previously recorded in those sections of the woodland began appearing in grazed and disturbed areas. Species that required direct light or open soil that had found no pathway to establish under the sealed canopy. The monitoring programme, one of the largest ecological monitoring projects in the UK, running until 2050, documented measurable changes within the first year. Slowworm counts rose from 36 in 2021 to 58 in 2023. Grass snake sightings quadrupled. And then, in September 2022, just 2 months after the females arrived, the matriarch gave birth. The first bison calf born in British woodland in thousands of years. By late 2023, a second calf arrived, the first individual ever conceived and born entirely within the woodland. A third followed in the summer of 2024. The founding four had become a growing herd, and that herd is now learning this landscape, where the best bark is, where the soil holds moisture after rain, where the wallowing ground is softest. They are writing a new map of this forest, and the forest is writing itself around them. But not everyone is comfortable with what this project looks like. And that discomfort says something important about us, because the bison don't produce a tidy woodland, they produce a messy one. Fallen trees, stripped bark, churned soil, gaps where continuous canopy used to be. It looks broken, it looks damaged. It looks, to human eyes trained by centuries of managed landscapes, wrong. Britain is not Eastern Europe. There is no true wilderness here. Every acre is owned, managed, fenced, and adjacent to human activity. And there is a deeply rooted cultural assumption in this country that properly handled nature should be visually orderly, that management should look like management. Dangerous wild animal legislation means the bison cannot share space with the public. Footpaths crisscross the woodland. Kent Wildlife Trust had to construct dedicated bison bridges, structures allowing the animals to pass underneath while visitors walk overhead. Any future expansion beyond fenced areas raises serious questions about land ownership, liability, and public safety near animals that weigh close to a ton. The debate is real, and neither side wins cleanly. But while the debate continues, the woodland continues to change. If this kind of story matters to you, hit like and subscribe. We cover the things mainstream nature channels don't touch. The monitoring programme runs until 2050. By then, the oldest bison born at West Blean will be approaching 30 years old. The woodland around them will look nothing like it does today. It will be messier, more broken in places, more alive in ways that can't be measured in a single walkthrough. The trees being stripped and killed right now will become snags over the coming decades, supporting species not recorded at this site for generations. The calves born in that woodland will grow up knowing no other landscape, no zoo enclosure, no managed paddock, just ancient English woodland. What is happening in that forest outside Canterbury is not a return to the past. It's something stranger, more interesting, more important. It's the discovery that a forest remembers that somewhere in the ecology of West Blean and Thornden woods, coded into the soil chemistry and the seed banks and the beetle populations and the fungal networks running beneath your feet, the forest had been waiting for the weight of something large enough to knock a tree over, waiting for hooves to churn bare earth back to the surface, waiting for bark to be stripped and deadwood to fall and light to cut through a canopy that had sealed itself shut. The bison stripped the bark, the beetles moved in, the light hit the ground, the seeds germinated, and a woodland that had been slowly suffocating under its own canopy started, for the first time in 6,000 years, to breathe. But the bison aren't the only ones being called back. In our next video, another animal that vanished from an entire country, and what happened to the landscape when it was finally allowed to return. You don't want to miss it.